welcome to the BullCast podcast. I'm Katie Pickler, and with me today is Court Winsett.
Hello, Katie.
We promise Cam still exists. This was not like an alternate universe where I come back and Cam goes away. It's not like Cam's on maternity leave.
No, Cam is definitely not on maternity leave.
But it's just, I think maybe I'm giving some breathing room where, I'm coming in, coming back. Cam's got some stuff he's got going on with him. And, the gang will be back together before you know it. Eventually. We'll get there.
Sometime maybe mid-September.
It'll happen. It'll happen. A lot going on in the world. We're not going to talk about political, though.
We're not going to talk about any of
We're not going to talk about any of it. Because a lot of what people are talking about right now is back to school, which I feel like summer just started.
Yes, but it didn't. See, the thing is, summer started while you were out on maternity leave, and you've been kind of occupied. But while you've been occupied, almost a whole season has passed.
I know, and now everybody's back to school. And then it's the big, time difference when like elementary and high school and all of those schools are starting versus like college is starting totally different times. And you start from beginning of August all the way to end of September is when all these schools can start.
Basically, in the next couple of weeks, we're going to start seeing K through 12 go back. Then colleges start going back early to mid-August, but as you said, a lot of them, especially the colleges that are on the quarter system, I'm not sure why this is the case. The colleges that are on the quarter system instead of on the semester system tend to go back later. Their fall quarter tends to not start until late September.
Okay.
I think that is a prominent way of scheduling things that happens out on the West Coast.
Okay.
I know you'll have, for instance, a lot of schools go back right around late August. It seems like the whole back to school thing doesn't really even stop until, like I said, mid to late September.
Yeah.
You've got schools that won't go back until after Labor Day.
That season's much longer.
And we're kicking off the back to school season. I mean, for instance, I think either we're about to have or we just had our tax-free weekend.
Yeah, tax-free weekend has already happened, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of buzz. That's where you start seeing, again, stores are going to be putting the back-to-school stuff up front. So you're going to see the push on highlighters and pencils and markers and all that fun stuff.
And that'll pretty much flow right into Halloween, which then, of course, flows right into Christmas.
Yes.
And before you know it, we're celebrating Valentine's Day.
Oh, you're depressing. Stop it.
Time just flies these days.
Back to school can resonate with a lot of different people because you're waiting on those college kids to go back to school so then they can be your caregivers for your kids. There can be your babysitters, your favorite babysitter that is now graduated high school and going off to college. You got to find somebody new. And even back to school, with daycares and stuff like that, they have kind of a cycle, even though they're more all year long, they still will then have kind of that celebratory back to school time frame where they reset and it's kind of like a new year.
Pretty much everybody sort of is on that school schedule.
My boys aren't on it yet.
They're going back to school. We'll buy them some pencils.
Okay.
They can chew on them.
Yes, please give my 3-month-olds some pencils to chew on. The back to school sales that are coming up, people are buying new clothes. They're buying all kinds of things. So anywhere from Sharpies. Sharpies was always my favorite thing. I love me a good, fresh, new Sharpie. And that I'm not to smell it, but just the fresh point. Oh, it writes so well. I love it. Do not give me a dull Sharpie. I get so mad. But people are buying lunch boxes. They're buying mini fridges. Some are using an excuse to back to school shop, and they're not going to school, but they're taking advantage of the opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. Tax-free weekend is tax-free for everybody.
Yeah,
and I think they check your ID.
No, they don't. And I know a lot of people are counting down to, yay, when the kids go back to school and they don't have to entertain them for many, many hours upon hours, especially in this heat, because in the Memphis area, we have had heat advisories pretty much every day for a month now, I feel like.
Yeah, I'm on the other end of this. All my kids are done with school, but, I've got
So you think?
Well, I mean, I know they're done with school, or at least they're none of them are currently in school or enrolled in any schools or applying for any schools. So for the time being, at least, they're done with school. I have kids that potentially are coming home, but not necessarily going away.
I think we did an episode on that called Boomerang.
Yeah, and I think we may touch on it again in this episode too, just because.
Yeah. Let's do a fun list. We love our Nicole. She does a great job with our outlines and our list. She put together a pop culture back to school moments we love. So we're going to go through hers, and then I immediately have to say one that she forgot.
Yes. Well, I mean, I guess you'll throw yours in on the end.
Well, yeah, we'll throw it at the end. And then wasn't there a Rodney Dangerfield movie
Actually, literally called Back to School? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%.
Not on here.
This is a list by somebody who clearly doesn't remember those movies.
Yes. So the first one is Katie Heron, First Day, Mean Girls. Her navigating the cliques in like a National Geographic documentary. That I do remember that.
Great movie, fun film. Obviously, she has whole other issues with going back to school.
She's the new kid.
Yeah, she's a new kid at school.
From South Africa.
Yeah. Africa, I think. I don't know if it was South
Oh,
Africa.
okay.
I think it was just one of the African nations. But
Yes.
Okay, so next would be Harry Potter's iconic learning that he's going to a school for witchcraft and wizardry, and his first exposure to that being trip to Diagon Alley, where he gets to buy his school supplies. But
that was a cool experience.
Yeah, he's going on a whole different experience of school supply shopping than most of us ever got to experience. So
Yeah, much cooler.
I've always been jealous of that.
Cher's Digital Closet and Clueless, Back to School Fashion Goals, 1995 edition. I stumbled, and I'm surprised it's never shown up before, but recently my algorithms have shown me other people talking about this closet and how she's, got it. And there were some people hating on it, but it's like, why do we not in this day and age have the technology to do that?
Yeah.
We should be able to do that. But people that were hating on it were like, why did it take Cher hitting buttons to realize it was mix matched? Honestly, I would argue to the point that people now are so reliant on softwares and systems to tell us stuff that they don't a lot of times use common sense. So it could take them going, oh yeah, that's mixed match, you shouldn't wear it. Because I feel like somebody would be like, oh, this is gonna be like a Mean Girls thing, like I wore an orange shirt and a striped purple thing and this because my computer said it matched. No, it doesn't match. Think for yourself. Don't trust the bots.
I feel like Nicole is playing to her audience, because the next one on the list, Rory Gilmore's Yale dorm move-in. Obviously, this was a whole different kind of first day. This was first day on college campus.
Yeah.
Not just any college, but Yale. I've been through college move-ins a few times now, and it's interesting. I went through it myself, like when I was a student, but I don't
You
really,
think? You're questioning that.
Mine was kind of not a real college move-in, at least for me, because I was still, I lived in the dorm, but I was living in the same city as my parents. So it's not like we had to move that far,
Yeah. It's a production. And you see that in what was it? Like Van Wilder does a great job about the college move-in. And then there's a lot of different, like the show Greek talks about that a ton. There's a lot of different things about moving and how it can be catastrophic, and especially if you got to go upstairs or things like that. But now, especially with like a lot of the SEC schools, like these girls are going like outlandish with these things. And it's
did you not have, like when you went off to school, did you not decorate your whole room?
I mean, I decorated it, but nowhere near what they've done.
I mean,
my mom made me like a headboard. Like she did all this stuff. So like I was probably like the top tier of like going above and beyond for my age. But now I feel like it's a million times
it's next level. I've had some people who have daughters that are going off to like any of the SEC,
Ole Miss, Alabama,
now,
yeah.
And the stuff that they do with their rooms now is just crazy.
I really just want to see, and my mom did this too, which I thought was great, is because they've got the beds, and she made me pillows where it could like look like a couch during the day, but then at night it was my bed. So, and that's what they're doing. But I just have to say, like these girls that are going with these white, beautiful comforters, the last one on this list, Elwood's showing up to Harvard. Absolutely. Everything is pink. She's got her chihuahua, rolling suitcase, and it's just
a moving truck. She shows up with a moving truck.
And everybody is just looking at her because they're just kind of in their dull, neutral colors. And then she's like, I'm here.
Yeah. Now, you had some that are missing.
So when I read Back to School, then immediately my mind went to back to school, to prove to Dad I'm not a fool. Got my lunch packed up, my shoes tied tight. I hope I don't get in a fight.
Billy Madison.
He was all about his snack packs. That movie is hilarious. Obviously, it is a grown man going back to school because he found out that his dad paid to get him all the way through. And he's thinking like high school, but no, it was back to elementary school.
Oh, yeah. You know, funny thing about that, I was never as big a fan of Billy Madison as I was his follow-up to Billy Madison, which was Happy Gilmore.
Oh, yeah,
And,
which the new one just dropped.
Yeah, the new one did just drop. I haven't watched it yet. And then you already mentioned the Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield, so
Yes.
there's that too. Can't think of any other ones right now off the top of my head, but so I think we shall close out the list
Okay.
and move into our topic.
Budgeting for families with school-age kids. So that's going to be K through 12. A lot of times I know teachers are putting out these supply lists and you've got different things that you have to get. You even have teachers now doing like Amazon wish lists, things. There's so much out there. And, you know, what the supplies you have to get, what you need to bring, what you have to get to contribute towards the classroom.
Yeah, maybe I was a little bit of a nerd, but I loved going and getting school supplies. I was always super excited about getting the school supplies when I was a kid. And then with my kids, a lot of the school required supplies you could buy in like a package.
Yeah, I remember they switched to that.
Yeah, it was like pre-packed. Here's everything you need.
But that's not the fun. You got to go in there and customize and pick your pens that you like and your pencils and like the fun little pouches that you'd put all the stuff in.
Yeah.
And you had to get like the protractor and the calculator and and then you had to what you would put your books in, like the covers, because then it's like, did you get the brown paper and put that on there so then you can decorate it? Did you get the book socks? Do you remember those?
Well, no.
You probably didn't have those.
Well, okay, so here's the thing about that. So my kids didn't have that. By the time they were in school, I'm not sure what the deal was exactly with their books, but they never like had books that they brought home with them, really. I mean,
Really?
Yeah. I mean, you know, they did.
But they have they have computers.
They had school books that I guess they brought home, but I don't remember them having the covers on their books for some reason.
Okay.
Like I'm not sure if it was.
I think it was required that we had to cover the books.
If they did have to cover them, then I just have completely blocked it out. There was never any issue where they were like, "Oh, fine from the school or whatever.
Yeah.
My book is in bad condition." They did also have computers, iPads, and school issue laptops and stuff like that. And I'm not sure how that affected their need to have actual textbooks. I think a lot of their stuff was done through the computer. I don't know that to be 100% true. When I was a kid,
Times are changing.
When I was a kid, we had to buy our books. Every year, we had to spend a ton of money to buy the books, and so
we did that in college, but not. We didn't have to do that.
Even in like grade
high
school and high school, I had to buy my books.
You went private though,
yes.
so that is a different perspective, maybe.
But so because I bought them, you know,
You could do whatever you want with them. They don't care what you did.
They didn't care.
Yeah.
Now you could try and sell them back at the end of the year, but you couldn't sell them back.
So I mean,
didn't
you
take
really
care
had
of
it kind of like college, because in college you can sell back.
Yeah.
So like common expenses, I know I always got excited because it was, you know, get a new backpack, your pencil pouches.
Trapper keepers, which I guess you didn't have.
No.
Trapper keepers. Oh, they were the thing when I was a kid. Man, every year I wanted a new trapper keeper.
Yeah. Well, see, and I was very particular on like because you'd have different spirals, and like I'd have different spirals for different classes, different notebook sizes. College ruled. I hated that because it was so small and I write really big. So like I hated getting that. And like I was very particular about certain things. And I still have some of those supplies that are lingering in my house that I'm still using today. But even as an adult, like I like my good planner. I want to have a big desk calendar that I can write on, and I want my personal little planner. Even though we have phones, I still like that paper planner. So adults can have back to school as well.
Every year I update my calendar. I just have to download a new thing to load into my Remarkable, but I still get to write on it.
Yes,
So-
it's not as fun as like getting different colored pens out and writing on it and putting stickers on it. And yeah, we're talking about budgeting because you've got all these things and it adds up. Okay, they need new shoes, new clothes, new backpacks. If you go public school versus private school, like there could be, even regardless of either one, there could be requirements on what you have to buy.
Yeah.
And uniforms, gym outfits.
Public school where supposedly everything is free, but man, we got absolutely hammered on fees every single year. And you would think that we would have gotten used to it and planned for it better. But every year it caught us off guard when at the beginning of the year, the kids would come home. It seemed like every single day, I need a check for this. I need a check for that. It was crazy.
Yeah, because and then club fees, field trips, T-shirts, fundraisers.
Yeah.
But so there's lots of expenses left and right. And as soon as you turn around, here's another one. But yeah, they're doing sports. So do you need to get an instrument? Do you need to get new cleats? What do you have to have for that? And childcare before and after school. You've got to think about that. If your kid is not old enough to be home by themselves for a couple hours, if you're not home.
What is the age for that now? Because
I don't know.
I know, for instance, when I was in grade school, my grade school was within biking or walking distance of my home.
Yeah.
So I went to grade school up through the 6th grade, which means that I would have been up to around 11 or 12 years old. And I know that I went at my house by myself. I had a key and could get in. I don't think that I was quite as do-it-yourself kid as a lot of the Gen Xers were. Like, you talk about our generation was when the phrase latchkey kid was coined.
Yeah.
And you had a lot of people in my generation that would go home every day after school and stay at home and, cook themselves TV dinners and stuff because their parents were still at work. I didn't have it quite to that extent. It wasn't every day for me, but I know I went home and stayed at home alone. And so it never occurred to me that I shouldn't be letting my kids stay home by themselves when they were around 12 or certainly 13 years old.
I think it depends on the kid.
Well, I know, but babysitting and like, for instance, so we had a 12 or a 13-year-old child and we were letting her watch her younger siblings and it's like,
yeah.
I just think that a lot of people would raise their eyebrows and go, really? and we didn't think anything of it. It's
a different dynamic because I know like my niece is 10 and 5 are their ages. Mm-hmm. Dad's upstairs working, but the 10-year-old's watching the 5-year-old for a little while, but dad's home. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. Like that's a tough thing. And I think it's based on your kid and their responsibility and like how long is it? And do you know your neighbors? Did they know like if something happens? Like have you tested it? Like, hey, I'm just gonna run to Target real quick. Like don't burn the house down. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know about that one.
Interesting.
So how to budget. So budgeting early for sports, clubs, and fees. Buy in bulk or do a supply swap with other families. Start a school year sinking fund for recurring cost. You need to budget more than you think you need. Like, again, there's going to be so much that comes up. And I've heard people talk about kids have growth spurts. And so it's like they think they've they've been able to use the stuff from last year. And then all of a sudden their kid has a big growth spurt. And now they're having to buy all new equipment, all new, clothes, shoes, things like that.
If you're not one of those parents that monitors your kid's size on like a regular basis, the fact that they're growing taller over the course of the summer can sneak up on you because they're wearing shorts and T-shirts all summer.
You don't realize till they put the pants on. It's like, what happened?
Pants on, it's like, oh my gosh, you got tall.
I think social media has helped some where I've seen like people switch out and it's like, hey, I need to get, I need size large shorts. I've got a bunch of mediums. And some of these parents, especially within like sporting groups or things like that, are swapping within each other.
Yeah, we had a dance team swap every year for Palm. We had, where you could go in and buy other kids' old uniforms and stuff that they had outgrown. So,
so I think people are getting connected a little better that way with their community, with like, probably back to school groups, things like that. But again, it's kind of building in that buffer so that you're not putting yourself in a credit card debt, because then, as you alluded to at the beginning of this episode, back to school rolls into October, which rolls into Christmas. And so then you're ending the year with a bunch of debt because you didn't budget for all this back to school stuff.
Yeah. Once your kids start back to school, expenses basically don't stop. Until what? I don't even know. I'm not sure that till
they move out.
Yeah, ever.
Yeah, never. So that's kind of, what you've got going on with the elementary, middle, and high kids. Of course, with high school kids, you'll have expenses of applications, of, really getting ready, college visits, things like that. I think a lot of people don't think about those ACT, SAT, this test, tutors. So if you've got a high school kid, you need to go ahead and start putting money aside, not for just college, but for all that prep while they're in high school to get them to college.
Yeah. Not only that, but speaking of literally getting them to college, once the high school kid has gone through the process of traveling to different schools, finding the school, applying to the school, taking the test to get into the school, actually being accepted to the school, you pay all of the fees to enroll them at the school. Tuition is paid, books are purchased, first day of school, you got to get them there before the first day.
Yep.
If they're living on campus, you move them out there, and you need a U-Haul.
Yep.
To move their stuff, or you're going to load it all into the back of your station wagon. Well, if you're going the U-Haul route, let me tell you, I got burned on this a couple of times before I learned you have to get that U-Haul booked way in advance. Because everybody's moving their kid back to school at the same time, and U-Hauls are not unlimited in supplies. So just book that U-Haul early, and
well, so I mean that's the expense then, because you got to move them in and then move them out.
Yeah.
Because I know, especially with college, it's you maybe living in a different dorm the next year. Some situations they may be able to stay for the summer, but so those are expenses as well.
If you go somewhere to drop your kid off at school and you buy them stuff for their dorm, then what are you going to do with it at the end of the year? Are you going to take it back home?
Yeah.
Or are you going to leave it where...
And you get a storage unit there.
And keep that stuff stored over the summer? Are they staying in the town where they're going to college? Or are they coming home? Where is their summer job if they're getting one? All of that stuff. Man, it all is complicated and stressful.
It's...
I'm glad I don't have to do it anymore.
It's a lot. Well, but now you have to deal with kids moving.
Yes.
And moving them in and out.
Yes. I'm just about to move one child back from the West Coast, so that'll be fun. Driving out there later this year.
So we've talked a little bit more about the parents and budgeting for with college kids, the move-in day approaching, the expenses stacking up. With college, for sure, it's tuition, it's fees, it's housing, books, supplies, tech, meal plans, groceries, like transportation, bedding, furniture. I think
it's all of the things.
I think almost every parent who has gone for college move-in day was like, I went to Target 5 million times, or I went to Walmart, and it just adds up and adds up and adds up. And it's stuff that you don't even think about, like, oh, I just went to Target to get batteries and tape and scissors. And you're like, why did I just spend $500?
Yeah. Have you had a kid who you have been over the course of their life kind of training for the use and saving of things like an allowance, making them do tasks around the house, chores to get money, whatever? Or is this going to be the first time that they ever really deal with they need an allotment of money?
Yeah.
And is that something you're going to supply them? Are they going to have to get a campus job? How are they going to be able to budget that money and use it? I know a lot of parents whose kids go away to school for the first time, and the parents have bought them the food plan.
Oh, yeah.
Which includes, like, you can go to the cafeteria and eat whenever you want, however much you want. It's basically free.
Yeah.
But cafeteria food is cafeteria food, and the kids don't want that.
They want the Chick-fil-A on campus.
Every single college campus nowadays has a Chick-fil-A, and they're like, oh, well, included with your meal plan is this. We can tack on money. So we got you the $400 per month extras, and you can use that at any of the shops on campus and any of the restaurants on campus. And within the first week of the kid being away at school, they've already spent all of their extra money.
How many times do you get a Subway, kid? What's going on? Yeah, it's helping your kids budget, because that is where almost every single parent, they've given their kids, hey, this is how much you can spend, whether it's through the meal plan or it's just in their account. And they're calling saying, I know this money was supposed to last me until the 15th, but I ran out. How did you run out? It's the 5th. Mm-hmm. Well, it happened. So making sure you've got, that's why it's really important, if you can, to start teaching kids about money in high school, if not earlier. Mm-hmm. So then when they get to college, they have an understanding about watching their bank account, watching things, and not just looking at the amount on there, but reminding them if there's automatic payments, what's coming out, clarifying who's paying for what, and, figuring out if they're working or not. Some parents are really generous and saying, hey, don't get a job. I want your main job to be focusing on school. Mm-hmm. But then if you've got sorority, things like that, it's adding up left and right how much that stuff costs.
We didn't even mention parking. A lot of these places, you have to pay for parking on a semester by semester basis.
Yeah. And the parking tickets. I was really bad about this because I would get parking tickets all the time in college because you're running late and you just whip in a spot real quick, and then I'd be in like a teacher's parking spot or something and get hit with a big old
God.
and like they'll hold your grades. They won't let you get your grades if you have these parking tickets. And so that was awful, like parking in the wrong lot, stuff like that. Now maybe other people are better than me, but yeah. The parking tickets were not a fun conversation with my parents of like, I need extra money. Why? Well, because I'm about to get my car booted if I get another ticket.
Yeah. I really didn't consider myself that much of a goody two shoes when I was in like high school, college. I mean, like I was,
You probably were.
I got away with some stuff, but I just never, like, if somebody said it's going to cost you money if you park in the wrong parking lot, then I was like, okay, well, then I'm not going to do that. I would just park in the right parking lot.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is Court in a nutshell. It's, am I going to be late for class, but I get hit with a fee? Okay, risk versus reward. I got to get to class. This is the third time I've been late. So, yep, I'm going to take a gamble because they may not be checking that time.
And I mean, on an even more fundamental level, perhaps, that outlines exactly the difference between you and me, because I would never be late for class. It just wouldn't be an issue.
I thought I would run late before this, and now that I have twins, I will never be on time for anything ever. Yeah. I have to mentally think that I need to leave like 45 minutes before I'm supposed to in order to do this. But
I will say that having a wife who perpetually believes that it is 45 minutes earlier than it ever actually is, and then having 3 children has made me a lot more relaxed about on time than I used to be. But it still irks me. It's still just sort of deeply ingrained in my DNA not to be late to things.
Well, then you're surrounded by great people.
So you finally get that last child out of the house. They're gone. They're off at college. You've done everything that you can to make sure that they're taken care of as far as budgeting and setting an allowance and supplying them with funds, making sure they have a job if they need it, so on and so forth. However you choose to spend money versus make your child pay for their own way after they turn 18. That's up to you, and it's a different decision for everybody. But you're alone at home. What are you going to do? You're an empty nester.
Enjoy. I think most people, like, it's a cycle. They're like, oh, it's empty. What am I supposed to do? And then you have the people who start changing their kid's bedroom into their new office or their workout room or their craft room.
Yeah, we have discussed what it's like, for instance, to no longer have children at home, and sort of the sense that I went through when we were facing down our last child leaving for college, and I was like, we're not going to know what to do with each other.
I remember talking to you about this. You were worried about y'all's relationship of like, who are we going to be, just Court and Robin, not without babies around, and not that there were babies in that, but not without kiddos around, and that's true. So you're going through a relationship identity crisis. Your finances hopefully
they've loosened up some.
A little bit. Yes and no.
I mean, like we did really feel a sort of a lessening of the pressure of finances as soon as the kids were all out of the house.
That's good.
I mean, you just don't spend as much on groceries. And stuff.
But then were you spending it other places?
That money is still going out of your pocket to your kids at school because they're still eating like.
See that. So then that would be tricking you, because then you go, oh well, we only spent $100 at the grocery store instead of $500. So then you may go, well, honey, we can get a new TV, or we can get, go out to this nice dinner, but you're not remembering, oh, wait, no, we just sent our kid, $500 last week, and that's where that money's going.
Yeah. It all still goes. It all is still just draining out a hole in the pocket. So you do have to sort of rethink your budget, but also that can be something that you go through with your child as you're sending them away to say, like, these are things that have been traditionally on our budget and we're going to continue to pay for you, but this is the maximum that we're going to spend, and you've got to make sure that you're tracking this money for yourself. Meanwhile, that money for you is still going out the door, so you may not have quite the breathing room that you think. You're
Yeah.
spending less on, maybe you're spending less on utilities. You're not, they're not there running the air conditioning as much.
And you get reminded of that when they come home for holidays.
Yes, you do. It's amazing when you get used to not spending the money and then the kids are back. And
you're just like,
oh, what is happening?
Where's all the money going? So, you've got the option. Your budget can be refreshed at this point. Your empty nesters, they're off. Having that conversation with your kids prior to them going away to school, or, it's never too late. If you have that where they're calling you saying, hey, I messed up with money, you then say, let's have a conversation. This is a great time to give them a credit card that you maybe manage, and so they can not get themselves in too much trouble, but they can start building their credit if you haven't already done it in high school.
Yeah. I think that, not to use a phrase that is probably way too overused at this point, but I think you can identify those teachable moments when your kid calls and says, "Oh, I wasn't paying attention and I ran out of money," or whatever. You can use it as a teachable moment to an extent and say, like, okay, well, how are we going to fix this so it doesn't happen again, so on and so forth. I know some people who are much stricter than I was with my kids about, and the kid calls and they're like, I'm out of money. What do I do? And they're like, well, I guess you suffer until next month. Have fun. So there is a
and that's where
range
kids can start playing mom and dad against each other.
Oh yeah. I'm sure that there are still debts that my wife racks up without ever telling me that it's happening, because the kids call her, they know not to call me.
Which then, just to be a disclaimer, because we're financial podcast, that is not good, because then that causes issues with the marriage, and that number one issue with relationships is financial issues. So you've got that. So hopefully, it's a learning thing. It's an adjustment. And that's why, just like your budget, it's got to be adjusted, because your life is constantly adjusting. Mm-hmm. Every time your kid gets involved in a new activity or drops a new activity, it's, the biggest thing is people think, oh, when they get out of daycare, then I'm getting a pay raise. Well, yes, you are, but are you getting all that money back, or is it changing into tuition, to school fees, things like that?
Mm-hmm. When I say that the boomerang kids, my kids are boomerang kids, or anybody else's kids are boomerang kids, I'm not saying that in a derogatory manner. I think it is very, very common these days that
Absolutely.
Kids, almost to the point that it's just not expected of your kids. I don't think that they even. I know that my kids get tired of hearing about the fact that when my wife and I graduated from college, we were married and bought our first house and had kids by the time that they were, on their 15th job or whatever. Yeah. They're like, okay, but times are different. And they are. They're very different now for my kids and for y'all's kids out there than they were for us when we were kids. But there's not necessarily the hard line expectation that a kid that leaves and goes away to college for 4 years is necessarily going to go straight from college into a career where they can afford to support themselves 100% without coming home for a little while afterwards. But the question then becomes, if they're going to do that, first of all, you need to be prepared. Like I said, there are things that you get used to not happening that all of a sudden they're back and that do happen again.
Yeah.
You run out of food in the fridge, you run out of milk,
toilet paper,
you run out of toilet paper, your utility bill goes up. All of those things, you need to be prepared for those sorts of expenses to increase. But also, you need to have a frank conversation with your kid, who is now, remember, an adult. You feel like is a reasonable amount of time for them to stay at home. Mm-hmm. Whether or not you expect them to find a job if they're going to be living under your roof.
Are they paying rent?
Are they going to pay rent?
Yeah.
Are they going to help with other utilities and services that you pay for at your house? Are they going to help with household chores?
Yeah.
It's all stuff that probably needs to be made clear on the front end.
Well, and also the expectations, because I know when I was staying at my parents' house for a little while, like getting a job, figuring out what I was doing after school, then it was, we had an expectation, because I was at college used to, like, I can go whenever I want and come back whenever I want. When you're back at home, it's kind of that respect. And it's like, hey, just let me know when you're coming home. Should I expect you back home? Things like that.
Yeah.
And so you've got to make sure you're respecting that it is different. You're not back at college where you've got your dorm and you can do whatever you want. Like, you're at your parents' house.
You may feel, as the parent, you may feel weird about charging your child rent, or you may think it's perfectly reasonable to charge your child rent. Some questions that you may want to consider for yourself are, when you're considering whether or not to charge your child, would be, okay, first of all, is it going to motivate them to find a job? Is it going to motivate them potentially to move out?
Yeah.
If you're charging them rent, then and they have to pay that, is that something that they might be like, well, then I'll find my own way? Or at least I'll find some employment so I can help pitch in. Is your house paid off? Is rent something where literally they could be helping you cover your ongoing mortgage payments?
Yeah.
So there's something,
There's things to, figure that out.
Yeah, it's like maybe you feel weird about charging them rent to stay in their own room that they lived in their whole lives. If your house is paid off, but if you're still paying on it on a regular basis and still having to cough up that money then they can certainly pitch in a little bit. They're taking up some space in there.
Well, and so what I would say about this, I've seen this done a couple of times. Number one, cautionary tale. If your child is there and they're helping to pay rent and you're using that to supplement with mortgage, do not make that your budget, because what if your kid actually gets the funds and then moves out and now you've put your funds somewhere else and you aren't used to paying that full mortgage.
Unless you take it to the full extent of like actually having
a term
lease.
Yeah. I've seen other situations where parents have told them they were doing this and some who haven't, where they get the rent and they are taking it from their kid and putting it in a savings account for them. And so they're not actually using it for the household expenses, but it's having that kid have that discipline, and then they can use that money then towards when they move out, things like that. And so parents have told them that, or it's been kind of a nice surprise of, well, those 2 years you've been paying rent, this isn't a savings account. I hope you use this towards a down payment on a house or something like that.
Now, do you want to hear the most extreme sort of things that you can do? And I say extreme because it's really kind of like it's a sort of next level, but it's a very fair way to approach it. You can say, okay, look, over the last 12 months, this is the average utility bill we've had.
Yeah.
So we're going to cover this much. On average, this is how much our utility bill was, that we're going to cover this much. If, on the other hand, if the utility bill increases substantially after you move in, then whatever is the overage from the average that we normally pay anyway, we need you to cover that. Yeah. You don't have to pay us rent, but help us out with the extra.
Help with the extra.
Yeah. And if there are certain groceries that you like and you want to have in the house, maybe you go buy those yourself. Also, keep in mind that it's very, very different if you're dealing with a child who's just been away to college living in a dorm for 4 years versus a child who's gone away to college, been working their way through college, had their own apartment, has already had those responsibilities, and is just moving back in with you to
save money.
Yeah, something like that. What is the level of responsibility that you expect out of your child, and what is the level of responsibility that they have attained?
Yeah. And if you're the kid that's moving back and your parents are doing this, take the opportunity if you can to save. So it's not one of those that you're like, oh, yeah, I moved in with mom and dad 2 years ago and I've just been blowing all the money that I've got and not saving. And so now I decided I wanted to move out because I'm tired of their rules. What have you been saving?
Yeah, so this sums it up pretty well. Our little outline here at one of the last things is boomerang kids aren't freeloaders. They are part of a growing generation navigating a tough economy. Support can be smart if it includes structure, goals, and mutual respect.
Absolutely.
So there you go. Back to school season equals natural point for a financial reset and make room for surprises. Kids grow, plans change, and expenses shift.
Shift happens.
And that is our bullseye. So, ladies and gentlemen, you have made it to the end of yet another episode of the BullCast podcast. If you liked what you heard and you'd like to hear more, please feel free to go to your favorite subscription service and sign up to have our podcast delivered directly to your device every single Thursday at noon. If you'd like to find out more about Cortland, Katie, Cameron, and Nicole, please feel free to go to our website. That website is bullcastpodcast.com. We've got pictures up there. We've got bios. We've got a place where you can drop a comment or suggest a topic you'd like to hear us talk more about. But hey, I mentioned pictures. We do have an Instagram handle. That handle is at BullCast Podcast. We also have an X handle, which is also at BullCast Podcast. And finally, rounding up the social media, we have a Facebook page. That Facebook page is BullCast the Podcast. But, ladies and gentlemen, Katie, Cameron, Nicole, and Cortland all work at a place called Pickler Wealth Advisors. And if you'd like to find out more about us, or find out about what we do, find out about what we could do for you, find out about our amazing team, or find out about our boss, David Pickler, please feel free to go to that website. That website is picklerwealthadvisors.com.
That's advisors with an O.
Not an E. Ladies and gentlemen, we have given you everything you need to go out, buy some school supplies, and get your kid to school. So for now, I'm Court.
I'm Katie.
And we're done.